You had a question, so go ahead.
Muhammad, the people you preached to,
Prophet Muhammad.
did they know about God before?
They know about God, yeah?
The people we preached to,
Yes, they know about God.
did they know about God?
You mean the true God? They knew about the idea of God, but they had what we call polytheism as well, like worshipping idols and all of that. But they did believe there is something that created the universe and controls.
But they didn't know about Allah.
No, it depends what you mean by Allah. Allah is an Arabic word.
Asking you.
So I'm telling you, it depends on what you mean by your question. You have to clarify. If you mean Allah means God in the Arabic language, which Al-Ilah, the God, then they use that term because it's an Arabic term. So they used it. But they used it for a full force deities, and they used it for the creator as well. So they believe that there is a creator, the creator that created everything, and they believe these idols are also deities that can intercede within the creator. You understand? So if they do good deeds, if they call upon the idol, that will intercede on behalf of the creator. So they believe in the creator of everything, but they still had polytheism within their beliefs.
So they believe in your God. They believe in the God of Allah.
They believed in the God. There is only one God.
Not far as I'm concerned, but they believe in the God of Allah.
They associated partners with him.
Huh?
They associated partners with him.
So they knew about him then.
They believed in the one true God, not in all his attributes because it was not revealed to them, right? But they had a general idea of the creator, the one true creator, and then they associated partners with that one true creator.
Okay, all right.
So they had remnants of Abraham's teachings.
Okay, good. So let me ask a question. Who did Abraham worship?
The God of Abraham. He worshipped the creator of the universe, the one who created everything.
Good. The one who created everything.
Yeah.
What is his name?
It depends who you ask. We believe the name of the creator is Allah. That's, Muslims believe that Allah's name is Allah. Creator's name is Allah.
Okay. Well, as far as I've seen in the Bible, he did not worship a God called Allah.
And why do you believe in what the Bible says? Why do you take the Bible as authority?
Why shouldn't I?
Okay, again, you're committing the same fallacy you were doing a few minutes ago. You're making the claim, not me. You're saying that the Bible is a source of authority. You're using it as a source of authority. Then it's upon you to demonstrate why it's a source of authority. You cannot ask me.
Let me demonstrate. No,
Okay,
don't worry about it.
but do you understand what I'm saying?
No. If you ask me to demonstrate, I will.
You understand what I'm saying, yeah? I'm saying you have to demonstrate why it's authority. That's what I'm saying.
I can.
Go ahead.
I don't have to in every instance to say something if it's known and understood by the general.
No, you're making a claim.
No, I know. Listen, I'm making a point. I'm making a point though.
I'm listening. You go ahead.
Not in all cases I have to demonstrate or prove. Because if it's generally understood to be the case, I don't have to explain to someone that this is less screen.
I agree.
When they already know.
I agree, but it's not generally understood. Then the name is what you want to say. But go ahead.
Fair enough, in your opinion. But listen,
No. There are many religions that believe in different names.
Fair enough.
It's a reality. It's not my opinion.
That's not my idea.
Okay.
But let me tell you why it is the book of authority. It is the oldest recorded.
This is what? The oldest
recorded information that tells us.
Oldest.
Yeah.
According to who? You?
All right. I'm going to state some stuff.
Okay.
If you think that they are incorrect, then you can disprove it. But I'm going to make some statements as a statements. So what I believe. And then if you think there's discrepancy, you can point them out. So it is the oldest book that reveal information about the creator.
I disagree 100%.
Fair enough. It tells us about the creators, how he created the earth. It tells us about history, about his people who they lived in Bible times. And all those things can be corroborated by historical evidence and internal evidence.
Like what?
I should get into that. It also tells us information about the future that made prophecies at the time that all fulfilled, and he made prophecies of our days that have all been fulfilled.
Like what?
I can go into some of them. It tells us.
Because you're just making claims so far.
No, I'm not making claims. And if you, I said, let's remember them, and you can. I'll highlight with three.
Let's go point by point because we don't want to lose our track.
True. I won't make
So what is the first point you're making?
Fine. I'll give it three alone.
No, give me one. Let's start with the first one from the three.
Let's give you one. Let me ask you the three. Let me ask you the third one. The third one, it mentioned information that couldn't be known any other way else than the Creator.
Can you repeat what you just said because I didn't understand it?
I'm going to repeat that.
Yeah. No, the last thing that you just said.
It gives us information.
Yes.
That it agrees with science and it agrees with internally.
With science? Are you sure you want to make that claim?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it agrees internally.
Okay.
And it's supported by internal evidence as to what the facts of the information.
Okay.
So any one of you can choose to dispute.
Okay, let's start with the science thing, right? So you're saying that what the Bible teaches is in accordance to what science today teaches. Is that what you say?
No, the Bible.
You said this is consistent with the teachings of science.
No. Let me say. Let me repeat again.
Repeat again.
Whatever the Bible teaches, and when it comes to scientific topics, it is absolutely correct. The Bible is not
That's the point I'm making.
Science textbook.
So
but anything it teaches according to science.
So is it in line with today's science, or is it not in line with today's science?
Well, maybe today's science to some extent. Maybe
so how do you know it's correct then?
I'm not finished that statement. You have to let me finish sentences.
Go ahead.
Maybe today's science might need catching up in some instances, but anything it has taught, whether science agrees or not, later on, it's always been proven to be true.
Again, how do you know it is true if it doesn't agree with science?
It does.
No, I'm saying the things that you're claiming that science will catch up with. How can you prove it's true when science is disagreeing with it? You just have a blind belief, but they're true.
How can you prove it's wrong? Not at all. Not at all. If it has proven to be true in all the instances, therefore, it after a while, it has gained the authority of a creator who's always in line with truth. So if what it says in the book has been correct, then and always been correct, then it means that if something is out of line scientifically today and doesn't agree with it, like man evolved from monkey and whatever, then we know that it must be scientific false and it is true.
Based on what?
I just said to you.
The Bible has so many. Okay. Let me make this point.
Yeah. Make a point. Okay. I thought you were asking a question.
No, I'm answering the question by making a point.
It's
right?
based on what? I just explained to you that.
Yeah. I heard what you said. I'm responding.
But let me just make the point clear so you can know. It is correct.
But I understand the point.
Oh right. Okay. So based on what?
Your point you made is very simple. You just said that because the Bible talks about so many things and they're all true, just the exception will be also true, but science will not. That's what you say. You see, I understand what you're saying very clearly. Now I'm responding to it. I'm responding to it. Can I respond to it?
No, you can. I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, because I don't agree with what you're saying. I think what you're saying is wrong. Because the Bible talks about so many things which are
correct,
incorrect,
no, correct.
Scientifically.
No, correct.
No, I'm talking about the incorrect things.
No, it doesn't say anything incorrect.
But that's what I'm about to say.
Okay. But you said because the Bible.
No, I'm about to talk about these things. I'm about to, if you allow me to finish, right? I'm about to demonstrate them. For example, the verses in the Bible which talks about the earth having pillars of four corners, like in Revelation chapter 7 verse 1, or for example Psalms chapter 73 talks about the earth having pillars and four corners, and there's an angel on each corner. For example, when the Bible talks about Job, I believe it's Job chapter 11 verse 11, I believe, which talks about embryology and the human being created from cheese. Cheese like substance. You can read. You have your Bible with you.
Let's see the first one first.
It's either Job 10:10 or Job 11:11. I think it's 10:10.
First of all, let's see the pillars first.
Okay, let's go. Let's go. Go ahead.
So
go to Revelation chapter 7.
So what are you saying about the Bible says it doesn't say pillars in Revelation 7, by the way. It says four corners.
No, I'm talking four corners in Revelation, the pillars in Psalms.
Okay.
I give two references.
The four angels standing at the four corners of the earth, holding inside the four winds of the earth, so that no wind may blow on the earth. the sea or
Okay.
anything.
After this, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding tight the 4 winds of the earth, so that no wind could blow on the earth or on the sea or on any tree. Now, where are these corners of the earth?
Listen,
Are you laughing at your Bible? I just asked a question about what the Bible teaches. I don't know what was so funny to laugh about.
Question.
So, asking a question about what the Bible teaches is funny. Okay, go ahead.
Let me ask you. Let me ask a question.
Please do.
Have you ever heard the expression ends of the earth?
Excuse me?
Have you heard the expression ends of the earth?
Ends of the earth. I heard of the expression, yeah.
Do you know it's a legitimate English expression?
Okay. And
No, I'm asking you, do you know? No, if you before me to come proceed, you do understand it's a legitimate.
yeah, people
acceptable-
use that term, yeah.
And it's okay, isn't it?
What do you mean it's okay? Is it in accordance to objective reality?
I'm not saying it's okay.
Not necessarily, but people use it.
It's okay.
Like for example, the sunset, for example, is one example that people use. We know the sun doesn't really set, but it's an example that people use.
So therefore, right away, I don't have to explain to you corners of the earth.
No, because that doesn't talk about ends of the earth there. It talks about corners, and there's 2 separate things.
Because you make corners to be different to
I'm
ends
not
of
making
the earth.
anything. That's what it's saying.
No, I know, but you make it that because I need to know, view it how you want me to view it, that ends of the earth.
I'm not saying
and
view it in
corners of
any
the
way.
earth
I'm
are
asking you the
different.
question.
I think they're the same.
No, but it doesn't say ends.
I say like you said, sunset. I think they're the same.
No, you're introducing your own understanding.
No. I just tell you that I believe they're the same.
No, but the word corner
So why
and
do
the
I
word
have to-
ends
No,
is
that's
not the same word.
No, the same expression.
So yeah, so
Same type
you're
of
putting
figure-
aside your intellect.
Move
Okay,
on
wait.
over.
Every problem I will bring, you'll just claim it's figurative speech,
no,
and that's the point I'm gonna.
You just-
That's the point I'm
you just
making.
got one
is-
thing, which is a figure of speech. And
No, but we
I
just.
I'll put that aside. Let's come in
But we just started.
I come in another one.
Okay, go to Job. Let's see if you're gonna say it's also figurative speech. Go to Job chapter 10.
Job chapter 10. Let's work with this one.
Yeah, read from 8,
From
9, and 10.
chapter
Chapter 10, read from 8, 9, 10. Read. Can I read?
Yeah, man, you can read.
Okay. So he's talking about the creation of man. Your hands have shaped me and made me. He's talking about the creation of man clearly, right? But now you'd completely destroy me. Remember, please, that you made me out of clay. So it's talking about creation, and this is literal, that you're made from clay, right? But now you make me return to dust. Do you not remember that you pour me like cheese and cradle me like cheese? Sorry, you pour me like milk and cradle me like cheese. With skin and flesh clothe me. All of this is literal. So here, this part about skin is literal. The part about returning to dust and being created of clay is literal. Now the part here about being poured of milk and cradled like cheese. Now, is the human being poured like milk and cradled like cheese?
Are you having a laugh or something?
I'm not laughing, I'm asking a question.
No, you are having a laugh.
I'm not gonna laugh, I'm asking a question.
You actually are having a laugh.
Are you trying to force me to laugh or something? You're laughing, not me. So can you answer that question?
No.
It is funny, by the way, but go ahead, answer it.
It's
But that doesn't mean I'm gonna laugh at it. Go ahead.
no, but let me ask you.
Please answer. No, don't run away now, please. Don't go away somewhere else. Can you deal with it, please?
I'm not at all running away.
Okay, please explain it.
Listen, you know, I stood there,
Yeah.
and when I come over, I come over.
How's that related to what we're talking
How
about?
much I'm not running?
Okay, sure, tell me.
So when I come over.
No problem, that's irrelevant. Let's talk about the verse.
You bring it up. You bring it up, so I'm not running.
Yeah, because you went somewhere else. Go ahead.
I went somewhere, but I'm going to show you what it is.
Go ahead.
You can understand that the creator here says, Job is saying that the creator pour him out. Remember, said, you make me return to the dust.
No. The milk part.
No.
And the cheese part. This is the one I'm asking about.
Let me answer. Now, how did Job return to the dust?
When he's talking about the future, and you will return me in the future.
No, you make me return to the dust.
Yeah, when you die, you return to the dust. You're buried in the grave.
So Job was dead?
You're buried. No. You're literally returning. Can I answer? You're asking a question,
Was Job dead here?
but you're not answering.
No,
Letting
this
me
is
answer.
the question I'm asking.
But now you're not letting me answer.
No, because this is the question I'm asking.
Can I answer?
This is the question. This is the question before. You got to answer. Was Job dead?
I don't know. You tell me.
Dead man can't speak. Job wasn't dead.
No, this could be written after his death or something that he said.
No, he said it. He can't read something.
As I said to you, this is talking about the future.
But Job can't write.
It's talking about the future.
He's talking about himself.
It's talking about the future.
No, he said, no, you make me return.
So he did return to dust.
I'm
asking you to explain and you're telling me to explain on your behalf.
No, you know why?
I want your explanation. You're the Christian.
Because you are the one who makes a claim concerning something where you don't understand.
I understand clearly. I was about to answer it.
Why I'm answering this question is to see how much you understand before you make a claim, an assumption.
I clearly understand, but you're not letting me answer you. I said you clearly. I said it clearly talks about the future and returning to dust that we. Look.
You can't speak about the future.
You see how you're not letting me answer?
No, because you're incorrect.
Because you know I'm right.
No, it says, but now you make me return.
Can I
to
answer?
dust.
Okay. So let's read other versions and what they say, whether they use the same terminology or not.
Yeah, go on. Go on.
And will you bring me into dust again? So he's talking about, here is a question, and it has a question mark. This is the King James Version. To me, excuse me, if you let me finish what I'm saying, right? So here is a question, and he's talking about the future. So I don't need to take the version that you're reading. I don't know whether it's in accordance to. Okay.
I have several Bibles.
Is this the Word of God as well?
I have
The
several.
King James Version?
Yeah, it's
So I like to read this one. Okay, so reading this one,
Fine.
we've dealt with the dust part. Can you deal now with the milk and cheese, please?
Well, no, man, you don't let us well.
You don't want to deal with the milk and cheese?
Listen,
Yes.
so it says,
Yes?
I remember beseech thee, and thou hast made me as clay. And
Yeah, you
thou-
poured me like milk and cradled me like cheese.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hold on. It said, will you make me, and thou will bring me into dust again.
Again, so it's talking about the future.
So
Like I was saying.
that's what you said?
Yeah, I said you're created from dust and you return to the dust when you're in the grave. That's what I was saying. And you were disagreeing, but clearly it's what it's saying.
I'm not talking.
You said I was wrong a few minutes ago.
No, I'm not.
You said I was wrong.
Eh?
It's on camera. You said I was wrong.
That,
When I talked about you returning to dust and it's a future thing. But now I've showed you. But listen.
hold on.
Anyways, it's not about point scoring. It's about dealing with the point.
Yeah.
Can you deal with the point about the milk?
1 second.
Yes.
1 second.
That's why I asked you, are you sure you want to talk about science? Because,
Yeah, man, that's
anyways,
what I was saying.
yeah, can you tell me about pouring like milk and cheese
but
now?
you can clearly see that the creator is, when Job mentioned that God poured like cheese, it means that God have done something that figuratively.
No, the rest of it is literal. Created from dust. God created me. I will return to dust. Oh, everything is mentioned. Flesh and bones. Everything is. Sorry, excuse me. Everything is mentioned as literal.
It doesn't mean that.
That's why I said to you. Did I say to you 2 minutes ago you will claim it's metaphorical and you said no? Okay, so everything I will bring that science is in disagreement with.
Let me ask you a question. How would God had poured in like cheese?
That's for you to say. You're the Christian.
And I'm telling you.
He's the Christian.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
Look, you're the Christian, not me.
I'm telling you. But I'm telling you. But you're
supposed to explain it.
No, I'm telling you. But you decide that this is not the basis for the conclusion. I'm telling you what it is. Listen. Let me tell you what it is again. Let me repeat.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell me.
It is a figurative sense.
Okay.
In a figurative sense. That's what I said.
So why is the analogy of being poured like cheese and milk? Why is the analogy trying to say?
Well, it's
Who's poured like milk and curdled like
Job.
cheese? So God poured him like the milk.
Yes.
And then he curdled him like the cheese.
You curdle him like the cheese.
And that's scientific.
What?
And that's scientific.
I mean scientific.
We were talking about science and how the Bible is in accordance to
He was
science.
making a scientific statement.
Look, I
It's
know.
a figurative
What's your name?
statement.
What's your name?
Hold on.
What's your name? What's your name, my brother? My brother, what's your name?
It's a figurative statement.
You don't want to tell me your
A
name?
figurative statement that's like pillars and corners.
Yeah, everything the Bible, the science and the Bible disagree with will be figurative, right?
Science will never accept such statements because just as a figurative statement.
Science attacks being poured like cheese and milk because
science
we're not poured like cheese and milk.
Figurative statement. You never expect science, any credible
Flesh and bones is also figurative?
any credible scientist to ever dispute that.
Okay,
that Job
okay.
was
I'm making a
poured
point.
like
Can you
milk.
go back to the verse?
What I said to you, there's no credible science that science in science will ever dispute.
Every embryologist will disagree.
As a basis to dispute, but it's scientific.
Can we go back to the
That
text?
doesn't make no sense because the Bible is full of statements.
I think this discussion is okay. Is over now because I think you're not being sincere with yourself. But, and I sincerely hope that Allah guides you to the truth. in being sincere with yourself. Because if
the Bible
I never
is replete with statements that is figurative.
Sure.
That is not,
you know deep down in
going
your heart that
against
what you're
science.
saying doesn't make sense.
Going against science, but
Sure.
it actually was a figurative statement.
No problem.
I'm full of that.
No problem.
And this was one of them.
No problem. May Allah guide you to the truth. I think you've demonstrated that you're not being sincere with yourself. But deep down you know that what I'm telling you makes sense. So I will ask Allah Azza wa Jal to guide you to the truth. And if you have questions for me, ask. But I believe I demonstrated my point when it comes to the Bible. Do you have a question for me?
Well, tell me one prophecy that is proven. The Muhammad is called a prophet. Tell me one prophet, one time.
Prophet ﷺ said, you will see the barefoot Bedouin Arabs competing in building the tallest buildings. The tallest building in the world today is in Burj Khalifa, is in Dubai. And Prophet Muhammad said something else. He said the reason why they will be able to do that. So he said the earth will puke its treasures. 50 years ago, Dubai was a desert. The earth will puke its treasures. So it will bring out, puke, like when you puke. So it will bring out its treasures, basically.
So how can the earth puke? I could use it as a nonsense.
Puking is bringing something from internal to external.
I could use
the
it
earth,
as nonsense.
But I didn't make that claim that you made. No. The difference between me and you is I didn't make that claim.
No, I'm saying to you that I could seize upon that as a nonsense.
So it's not nonsense.
Yeah,
because puke linguistically, we can use that. The earth can puke.
The earth can puke.
Can, why not? What does puke mean in English? Go to the definition of the word. What does the earth mean?
No, you know I know.
I told you that puke means to get something from external.
Earth can puke.
But you're not,
anyway, I'm just showing you that.
I'm just. You're just showing your hypocrisy with all due respect. For two reasons. First, because.
No, I'm not going to happen there. I'm just.
No. You made a claim and then you don't want to deal with it anymore. You're just showing your hypocrisy for two reasons. The first, I didn't make the claim about science. You made it. The second point is that puke linguistically. Can you let me finish?
Scientific correct. It's not God's word either. So anyway,
if you're not letting me finish. So I don't think we can have a discussion.
Mention the prophecy. I'm not going to hop on the puke.
I've already mentioned the prophecy.
Which means what? What do you mean?
Which means that the earth will bring out the treasures that are within it, and that's what happened. Dubai was again you're telling me to say, and whenever I speak, you interrupt me. So I don't know whether you want me to speak or not. Okay, I made a very simple claim. Prophet Muhammad said the Bedouin barefoot Arabs will be competing in building the tallest building. We see today the Bedouin barefoot Arabs are competing in building the tallest buildings. 50 years ago, Dubai was a desert. The reason they have money is because of oil. The earth literally giving out its treasures, like the Prophet said. And the Prophet said the money will become abundant within you. And money became abundant within the Arab using what the earth actually gave out. So this is one of the predictions the Prophet Muhammad made. Other predictions is that he named the countries that will become Muslim. He said he named the countries that will become Muslim. He said Islam will spread to Yemen, Islam will spread to Jordan, Islam will spread to Syria, Islam will spread to Constantinople, Turkey, Islam will spread to India and Pakistan, Islam will spread to Egypt, Islam will spread to Iraq, and he named the countries.
He named Iraq and so
by name.
Okay. And he said Islam will spread.
Yes, he said Islam will enter there. This will become a Muslim country. And he said you will overcome the Roman and Persian Empire.
But how can he say that? And when Muhammad was alive, there was no such thing as Islam as such.
No such thing as what?
Islam.
What are you talking about? Prophet Muhammad brought Islam to the people. So he's saying, what do you mean he didn't bring Islam to the people? What did he bring?
Well, let me answer that.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
There was such thing as Islam, was it?
There was something.
There was Muhammad spreading his beliefs to the people.
What was his belief called? What was it called?
I wouldn't say it called Islam, was it?
So you don't know what religion Prophet Muhammad was talking about?
It was not Islam, was it?
Christianity. Prophet Muhammad was talking about Christianity?
No, it wasn't Christianity.
So what was he talking about?
But it wasn't called Islam, was it?
Of course it was called Islam.
When was it called Islam?
From the beginning it was Islam.
So how do you know that?
You know that from the teachings of Prophet Muhammad. He said to us, call yourself Muslims. And Allah in the Quran tells us, call yourself Muslims. هُوَ سَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. He named you Muslims.
Hold on. But the Quran wasn't compiled until Muhammad's death.
Again, look, you keep going around yourself and, with all due respect, talking about things that you don't know. Clearly, right? The Quran was revealed in an oral form. So the people who were reciting the Quran, who were reading the Quran, who was present, and his teachings was there in the time of Prophet Muhammad. Writing and the teachings being there are two separate things. And by the way, every time a verse was revealed, it was written down, so that even the writings was there. And you said that yourself.
I don't think that's right.
You said that, you just proved that.
That's what I heard.
No. By the way, you just proved that because you said it was compiled, and you cannot compile something that was already there. So you yourself, what you said is proof of what I said. They compiled the parchments.
No, it was.
You're gonna teach me now Islamic history.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna teach you Islamic history.
Go ahead.
Okay, you know why?
We will see now. Go ahead.
You know why?
You don't have to tell me why. Teach me.
No, I'm not tell you why. But I choose to tell you why. You know why? Because you have many who are Muslims who have many different versions of the name. But also you have people who are not Muslims.
You're making claims you're not providing. Which Muslims have? Can you prove your claim?
No, I'm going to make a couple of statements.
So you just make claims, okay?
Yeah, I'm going to make a couple of statements.
Okay, go ahead.
That a couple of claims that you may not agree with. But let's take it slide. I'm making a point. I'm just making some point before I make this point. And the version is kind of varies from people to people. However, what I do know is that it is said, according to Islamic history, that and so-called some secular history, that Muhammad was after his death, then the people who were with him were asked, what did the Prophet say? And then they put these on the writing. Not a case of they were writing on like Muhammad. That was
I'm sorry, if you just give them 1 minute to pass because I cannot hear you. Okay, now continue making your claim. Oh yeah, Hare Krishna there, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, but some people, you know, they make.
Anyways, what are you saying about Prophet Muhammad, yeah?
I'm saying, what I do know, and I think I know enough about Islam, to know that.
You know enough about Islam and you don't know Prophet Muhammad is preaching Islam.
No,
go ahead.
To make the statement, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So, I know enough to know that Muhammad is after his death, the people who were with him were asked, what did the Prophet say about this, and that? And that was when they actually put down things in the right. When Muhammad was alive, there was no recorded evidence of him told anything about his people. After his death, they were asked what orally what he said, and then he said it was the right.
Well, again, it just shows you don't know what you're talking about.
I know.
With all due respect to you, and as you said, you're making claims without any evidence. There are multiple evidences for that. The life of Prophet Muhammad.
Muhammad and were scribes and were stuff and everything.
Excuse me, what?
There were scribes.
Can you raise your voice? It was scribed?
There were scribes who write down what Muhammad said as he go along everywhere he went.
Yes, we have the names. They're called writers of revelation. We even have a title for them. We call them Katabat al-Wahi, writers of revelation. We have the names. Abu Bakr Siddiq, Umar ibn Khattab, Uthman ibn Affan, Zayd ibn Thabit. We have the names of them. So we know who.
This is what we're talking about. They didn't write down stuff when Muhammad was.
They didn't write what?
They didn't write down stuff when Muhammad was alive.
They wrote the Quran. They were called writers of revelation. No, again, I don't know you. Can you provide your evidence for your claim?
I can tell you this.
I can give you hadith that clearly state that they were writing the revelation of the verses when they were revealed.
As it revealed.
After the verse was revealed, the Prophet was asking someone to come and write the Quran, clearly in hadith. Again, as I said, you don't know. Just admit you don't know and it's okay.
I
Islamic history.
I've got many sources, including Muslim I've got discussion who many of them will tell you that agree with that.
Anyways, we're just going in circle. Do you have another question or that's it?
Yeah. So really along the way, along the point, I just asked that point that you were making a point earlier. The actual Quran itself was not.
Let's finish with that, inshallah, because there's a lot of people who are interested to talk. But go ahead, yeah. Yes, just next to you don't see? But go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
That's fine. All right, no, I won't keep the time too long.
Salaam alaikum, man. You good? So there is a lot of people, don't worry.
He's Muslim already.
Come this side, inshallah. Yes, right. You want to make your last point?
So,
Because also there's a lot of noise next to us.
that's right. I understand.
Yeah.
So the last one I have to say is that if the Bible was before the Quran, and it was even Muhammed considered it to be true. I said
There was no such thing known to be called the Bible. There was what you call the Bible. Biblia is the collection of books that you're talking about. It was not translated into Arabic, and it was not in the Arabian Peninsula anyway, in the form that you know it. What Prophet Muhammad confirmed was the teachings, the revelation that was revealed to Jesus, which we call the Gospel of Jesus, and the Torah that was revealed to Moses, not the Bible that you have today. Are you asking a question, or are you disagreeing with me?
I'm rebutting what you said. The rebuttal. Absolutely incorrect. The Bible started to be compiled, to be written by Moses.
I'm not talking about the writing.
No, I'm telling you, that's what the Bible is.
No, the Bible is Old and New Testament. It's not just the Old Testament. So the Bible is not the Old and New Testament. Anyways, it was a pleasure talking to you. I think there, if you don't know, if you don't know what the Bible is, I don't think there's any point. Anyways, it was nice talking to you. Pleasure talking to you. We can talk another time maybe. Pleasure talking to you. Nice talking to you. You too. Take care of yourself.